In this video, we're going to be talking about how to make reliable progress in your training with a busy schedule. And we're going to talk about 5 simple frameworks that I use all the time, both with myself and clients to do this. So we're going to give you super actionable tips. But before we get into that, let's just frame this problem. So if you're a busy person, you're an active adult, but you got a lot of other life stuff going on, chances are you go through this sort of reliable arc. So you start a program. The program is really good, you're excited about it, and you're overall excited in general because you got all the life things going on and you got this fitness thing now going on too. And so there's this short period where you're kind of doing all the things, right? You're tackling it all. And when you first start doing that and you hit a really good stride in the first couple of weeks of a program, you feel super excited and you're hoping that you can sustain this long term. Now, at this point, you got life and you got fitness in balance. But as you know, life always has the potential to get a little bit busier. And so once life gets a little bit busier, then naturally there's less room for fitness. And so at this point, you're likely to go one of 2 directions. And neither of these work, and they both can lead to a setback. Direction 1 is you just try to force the issue. You go, you know what? I got a ton of capacity. I'm a capable human being. I can push through. And so you try to do your program to perfection while also having an increased degree of life demand. That doesn't end up working well, usually does it? Now, on the flip side, and what leads to a similar place, just on a shorter time scale, is just saying I'm too busy, I'm not going to do it. Now, in scenario A, you try to fit it all in, you end up burning out, and then you lose momentum, have a setback, and stop doing it. In scenario B, you say, I can't do it this week, and then you lose momentum, and that in and of itself is a setback. So either way, you kind of end up in the same place, and there's this lingering doubt that comes in at this point, and that doubt is, can I ever really do fitness and life at the same time if I'm busy? Or is it just that I'm doomed never to make the progress that I want to? Now, the good news is the answer to that question is no, you're not doomed. You can make reliable progress even with a busy life. However, you need to make one mindset shift, which is going to be the overarching theme of all of these rules, which is that you cannot optimize without first prioritizing. So these are all going to be around priority before optimization, or prioritization before optimization, and you're going to see how these all fit together. So starting off with rule number 1, this is what we call the minimum viable training week. All right, so if you're familiar with the Pareto distribution, it's the 80-20 rule, the idea that 80% of the results come from 20% of the actions. And in the case of training, it's going to be no different. So when you're looking at your minimum viable training week, this is asking, what is the minimum amount of sessions and what are the contents of those sessions that will allow me to get 80% of the results? And usually this is 20% of the possibilities that you could do in terms of your training. So what this is going to look like for most people, in most cases, is going to be 2 full body training days where you have a push and a pull in the upper body, and then you have a hinge and a squat in the lower body. Now, the specifics of which exercise to choose for you can differ depending on a lot of factors, your injury history, preferences, logistics, etc. However, those details are not as important as just defining what is that minimum collection of things. So you can take that framework that I just laid out, and that's going to be good enough for about 90% of people to define the minimum. Now, the reason we're defining the minimum, and we're going to go into this in further detail in a second, is that this sets what must be done. And it sets it at a realistic level so that when everything else fails, when the optimal program goes out the window, you know exactly what has to get done. Psychologically, this does something very important, which is that when you add those other things that are going to give you that last 20%, but are not part of this minimum viable training week, you are going to feel like you're getting a bonus for doing that, not getting penalized for not doing the full program. So psychologically, this is going to keep you on track. And the more that you can string together just doing this week to week, the more you're actually going to make progress. Now, with that said, on this theme of prioritization, we're now going to go on to framework 2, which is time block prioritization. Now, if you're a busy adult, you probably already time block. And if you don't, you should. I do this every Friday. I'll go through the big things that I have to do the next week, the next tier down of things I have to do, and then the next tier down. And I'll rank order these in terms of A, B, and C priorities. So the things that are A priorities are the things that move things forward and the things that have to get done. These are non-negotiables. If I don't do them, bad things happen. Now down from that are the B and C level priorities. These are more like not have to have, but would be nice to have and would really enhance things, and would be cool to have, and if everything else is going, will probably enhance things further, but alone without A and B happening, don't really matter or move the needle significantly. And so in terms of exercises, we could think of this as we have warm-ups, we have supplemental routines, we have accessory exercises. These are kind of the fluff of the program. It's not that they're not useful, it's just relative to those big compound lifts, your squat, your hinge, your push, and your pull, these are not going to give you as much of the stimulus that's going to drive your results. So when you're looking at planning your training week, the way that I would look at this is in a modular sense. So you have those minimum viable training activities and sessions. Those are priority A. You time block those out like they have to get done. So if nothing else gets done this week, you are going to get those sessions done. Then in other modules, which can happen on different days or the same day, you say this would be a priority B. It enhances the effect rather significantly from priority A, but if I don't have it, I'm still going to make progress. And then priority C. This optimizes me a little bit, but it doesn't drive as much of the results as priority B. And if I don't have priority A and priority B, then there's no real reason to do this. In this way, if you go and you look at your week and it starts getting busy, then you can say, okay, I'm not going to do these C blocks, and the B's are a maybe. This way, you start to set your expectations accordingly, even as you're going through and even before you're looking at the week, and you have a realistic appraisal of what you can get done in that week so that you're keeping expectations at the appropriate level. You're not going into it thinking, yeah, I'm going to try to cram all these things in. You're going into it realistically saying, I'm likely not to have time for blocks B and C. My A's are non-negotiable. Where can I plug those in? So if you time block it out, you see what you realistically have coming up, then you can decide, is this just a minimum viable training week where I'm doing my 80-20 and that's it? Or am I going to have some time to slot in some B and C tier priority stuff? And if so, then figure out where you're going to slot that in as well. Could be the same day, could be opposite days. In the aggregate, if you get the same amount of work done per week, it doesn't really matter where it is. So don't be thinking optimization in terms of has to be on the same day, has to be after this, all of that. That comes after looking at the overall total. So if you're not even getting that overall total, it's just an element that you don't really have to worry about all that much. All right, so now with that being said, moving on to framework number 3, this is going to talk about what happens if you're a little bit short on time. So what happens if that session needs to be truncated further? Do you try to do as much work, but get it into a compressed time frame, or do you decrease the amount of work you do? And so this is really the question of, do I do less total work but keep the intensity up, or do I drop the intensity down and try to squish in the overall volume or amount of total work? And I would say that especially if you're tired, especially if you're busy, especially if it's a high stress week, you want to prioritize intensity over the amount or over the volume. So let's say as an example, if I go in and I have a workout where I'm going to do my squats, I'm going to do my Romanian deadlifts, and then I'm going to do my leg extensions. If I had planned 3 to 4 sets of each of those, I would rather go in and do 2 sets of those and work up to about 90% at least of the planned intensity for the day, but cut the overall sets down by either 1 set or even in this case by half, and get a couple of quality sets of the normal or around normal intensity that I usually work at. So my total sets for that session might end up being somewhere closer to 8 working sets rather than something like 14 or 16. But what it's going to do is it's going to keep the momentum going. It's going to keep my body acclimated to that level of intensity. And it's also going to allow me to offload some fatigue that associates with all of that usual volume. So in the next week when I come back, I'm going to be ready to start phasing that volume back in. And I'm also not going to be as tired, and I'll be more prepared for that session when it happens. All right, so now with that said, what if we can't even get to the gym to do the normal routine? And what if we're looking at the schedule and it's like, I really only have 20 minutes for this. Can I really fit this in? For most of us, the reality is that 20 minutes on the schedule is not enough to get to the gym, do a routine, and come back. So we need to, in these cases, have little filler routines that we can plug and play so that if we have 20 minutes, we make a rule that we're doing something. This could be just 2 body weight exercises done pretty close to muscular failure, right? This allows us to get that intensity rule up there while keeping the volume relatively low. And we're just checking the box. If we got some minimum viable training in here, it might not be the gym session that we wanted, but we can get similar movement patterns and we can work it to a similar level of effort just to keep things going. An object in motion stays in motion. And if you lose that momentum, it's always harder to get back in, even if it's an imperfect filler session that's a little bit different. Let's say vacation, busy week, that's always gonna be just skipping it altogether. And what can be really helpful in this case, which I really recommend and something that I do, is even in my work environment, I keep some small weights. And so the small weights are going to help me that if things get super, super busy, can't get to the gym, I at least have some form of resistance that would allow me to do some lunges, some overhead presses, some rows, whatever it might be. Might take me more reps to get to the correct intensity level or the correct proximity to failure, but still I can get some stimulus in and keep the momentum going. All right, and last but not least here is rule number 5. And this plays into the same psychology that we talked about in rules number 1 and 2, which is making sure that our expectations are at the right level and that we're prioritizing in terms of how we are going into the sessions and what we are hoping we're going to be able to do. So we call this our stress-adjusted expectation framework, which is that when stress increases in life, we realize it pulls from the same pool as our training stress, and we adjust the expectations accordingly. This way, we're not disappointed when we can't quite meet the level of intensity or volume that we're expecting to do. So the simple framework here is if life stress is super high, go in with the expectation that you can do about 80 to 90% of your usual, but not the full. Now, if life stress is moderate, go in with the expectation that you're going to match your usual. And then if life stress is low, go in with the expectation that you're going to be able to progress in 1 exercise, max 2 for the day. If you can do this, you match your expectations with what you're likely going to be able to do consistently each week. Now, you might get positively surprised and you're like, actually, I thought I was going to be tired. Life stress is high, but I feel pretty good today. And then you can push it. Again, psychologically, this gives you a positive element of feedback rather than going in with expectations super high and then getting them disappointed and giving you that negative aspect of feedback. All right, so with all that said, those are our 5 easy tips. The big overarching theme here again is to prioritize first and forget about optimizing. When you're busy, optimization should pretty much go out the window. And on the big meta level, if you can think about it, prioritization, keeping your momentum going, is actually allowing you to optimize your progress long term. But in order to do that, you're often giving up that optimization short term. So if you need help doing this, I do offer one-on-one services. Go down to the link in the description and check those out if you want, or leave me a question down in the comments. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace.